Hi, today we're going to talk about something you've probably experienced more times than you'd like to admit. You sit down to do something important, study, work, or chase a goal you actually care about, and somehow your mind just doesn't cooperate. And the strange part is, you actually want to do it. You really intend to start, but something invisible keeps pulling you away. In this video, we're going to understand exactly why that happens. Not on the surface level, but what's actually going on inside your mind when you lose focus, delay tasks, or get stuck in overthinking loops. Because once you understand the system, you stop fighting yourself blindly and start working with how your brain is actually designed. All right, let's go deeper. Imagine this. You open your laptop, ready to get something done. You tell yourself, I'll just check one thing first, and suddenly you're not working anymore. Maybe you're scrolling, maybe you're watching something, maybe you're just stuck thinking about what to do next, and time disappears quietly in the background. Most people assume something is wrong with them at this moment, but nothing is wrong with you. Your brain is simply following its default programming, and that programming was never designed for modern life. Your brain evolved in a completely different world. A world where survival mattered more than success. It wasn't thinking about goals, productivity, or a long-term vision. It was focused on one thing: efficiency for survival. Save energy, avoid danger, choose the safest possible option. That system kept humans alive for thousands of years. But in today's world, that same system creates confusion. Because now the safe option is no longer physically safe, it's mentally comfortable. Scrolling feels safe. Avoiding feels safe. Delaying feels safe. Staying in comfort feels safe. And anything difficult, studying, building skills, creating something meaningful, feels like unnecessary risk. So your brain pushes you away automatically, not because it hates you, but because it thinks it is protecting you. This is why procrastination feels so confusing. You know exactly what you should do. You even feel guilty for not doing it, but you still don't start. And then you get stuck in thought loops. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if I waste my time? And suddenly your mind feels extremely busy, but nothing actually moves forward. That is the trap, because overthinking creates the illusion of progress. It feels like you are working through something important, but in reality, you're just delaying action while mentally exhausting yourself. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. Your brain is not just avoiding effort. It is actively chasing rewards, but not long-term rewards. It is obsessed with instant rewards. A notification, a short video, a small distraction, a quick escape from discomfort. Because in its logic, instant reward equals survival efficiency. If something gives immediate relief or pleasure, your brain labels it as important. If something gives delayed reward, your brain labels it as low priority, even if that delayed reward could completely change your life. And this is where most people get stuck without realizing it. They assume discipline means forcing yourself harder, but discipline alone cannot win against the system constantly pulling you toward instant gratification. So instead of fighting your brain directly, you need to understand how to work with it. And the first shift is this. Start thinking in micro actions, not big life changes, not perfect execution, just something so small that your brain doesn't feel threatened by it. Because the hardest part of any task is not doing it, it is starting it. Once you start, resistance naturally drops. Even something as small as opening a document and writing a single line can break the mental barrier. At first, it feels meaningless, but to your brain, it registers as motion, and motion creates reward signals. That small signal is what pulls you forward without forcing it. Now, let's go a little deeper into what's actually driving all of this. There is a chemical system in your brain called dopamine. Most people think dopamine is about pleasure, but that is not true. Dopamine is about anticipation. It is the chemical that says, this might be worth doing, and your brain is constantly scanning for the easiest possible dopamine sources. That is why quick entertainment feels so powerful. It gives instant feedback, no effort, no uncertainty, no delay. But meaningful work works differently. The reward is delayed, so your brain underestimates it at the beginning, not because it is useless, but because it is not immediately rewarding. Until you actually start doing it, your brain begins to update its prediction. It slowly realizes that something is happening. Progress is forming, even if it's small, even if it's messy. And that changes everything internally. Because now, instead of seeing the task as a threat, your brain starts seeing it as something familiar. And familiarity reduces resistance. That's the real shift. Not motivation, not discipline, but familiarity. This is also why consistency beats intensity every single time. When you do something in small, repeated actions, your brain adapts. It stops reacting emotionally every time you start. It begins to normalize the behavior. And what was once difficult slowly becomes automatic. Not because it got easier externally, but because your brain stopped treating it like something unusual. Now, here's something most people don't notice. Every time you avoid a task, your brain learns. It learns that avoidance works, that discomfort can be escaped, that relief is always one distraction away, and every repetition strengthens that pathway. So over time, avoidance doesn't just become a habit, it becomes the default response. Not a choice, but a reflex. But the opposite is also true. Every time you start despite resistance, your brain learns something different. It learns that discomfort doesn't need to control behavior. It learns that starting doesn't equal danger. It learns that action can exist even when motivation is missing. And each repetition weakens the old pattern, not instantly, but gradually, quietly. This is why real change feels invisible at first. You won't feel a dramatic shift in one day. You won't suddenly become a different person overnight. What you will notice instead are small gaps. A little less resistance, a slightly faster start, a shorter delay before action, and those gaps slowly expand over time. Now, let's talk about something important: relapses, because they will happen. You will fall back into old habits sometimes. You will waste time again. You will lose focus again. And in those moments, your brain will try to make it mean something about your identity. But it doesn't mean anything. It is just a temporary return to an older pattern. Nothing more. The key is not avoiding relapse. The key is shortening it. How fast you return matters more than whether you fall. And over time, something subtle begins to happen. You stop negotiating with yourself as much. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop needing emotional permission to begin. And instead, you start acting first and thinking later. That's when things start changing at scale, because your actions are no longer dependent on mood. They are driven by structure. And when you reach that stage, something very interesting happens. You start trusting yourself again, not because you never fail, but because you always return. And that trust becomes the foundation for everything else you build. So take control, start small, stay consistent, and watch what happens. My name is Peter. If this helped you see things a little differently, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who's been struggling to get started. You probably already have someone in mind. Trust me, we all do.